Hitman 1 is a sequel. Yes, a sequel. A reboot. In a brave yet failed direction to take the release of a game. I imagine that the board meetings went a little something like this. Okay, chaps, here's what we're gonna do. Let's break it into episodes like a television show that you can watch over and over again. And every time you do, something's different. And then in a month, we'll release another one. Well, won't people be bored with the game by then and have moved on to other games, ignoring any episodes we put out after that? Or worse, won't they just, wait until all the episodes release, like binging on Netflix? No, shut up! Who is this guy? Get him out of my boardroom! And that's why we got Hitman 1. Not the first one, but the new first one. In the episodic state that we got it in, and why the UI looks more like a Madden menu screen instead of something more functional.
What the hell is wrong with you? Go away!
Come on, don't encourage this asshole. Lindsay, let's just go for a break. He's probably coked out of his mind.
The mechanics are difficult to explain because there's a couple of different games inside this one game, and all of it flows so well that it actually makes me at times wish it was a different game. See, the point of this game is to kill specific people in these exotic locations, whether it be a mansion where a fashion show is being held, a political extremist training camp, or Marrakesh in the midst of a protest. And while all of this is going on, you're supposed to find a quick, quiet, and witnessless way to take out your target without anyone knowing you were there. You could do this by sneaking up behind someone, subduing them, and hiding their bodies in various bins or inside acid baths and wood chippers. You can also shoot them with a silenced pistol, inject them with poison their drinks, their food, and then sneak up behind them while they're in the bathroom throwing up and push their heads into the toilet, giving them a terminal swirly. You can rig electrical devices to electrocute people to death, drop big PA speakers from a high space on top of someone's head, or engage in a little battle axe throwing. There's a lot of options, but unfortunately I found myself ignoring most of them in favor of doing things in a way that didn't require me to wait around for 20 minutes until the target wandered into that one place I needed them to be, so I mostly ignored these alternative ways to do things. But in order to do any of these things anyway, you need to infiltrate. You infiltrate by sneaking your way into places you aren't supposed to be, throwing coins, choking a motherfucker unconscious, and stealing his clothes. Just like my old high school, but instead of taking your shoes, you're taking everything the dude's wearing, and you do it in record time too. It's like Agent 47 must be one of those magicians that can remove a table sheet without knocking over any of the glassware, or everyone in this universe wears tearaway clothing like an NBA player. It's either one. Once that's done, you have to find a place for the body, because if the body is discovered, you'll notice a whole lot more white dots over people's heads. Those dots are Karens. People who are naturally suspicious, and if they notice you, they will try to arrest you. The less white dots there are, the better, so name of the game here is to separate people from packs. You can do this by turning on or off various objects in the environment like radios, lights, generators, and this will cause one of the people in the area to check out what the noise is. This allows you to take out at least one person guarding an objective, and it's usually a white dot checking out the noise, so it allows you to eliminate threats who could spot you being somewhere that you're not supposed to be while thinning out the population around a target. The game can be hard, but it's a weird kind of trial and error difficulty. It's less like Thief and more like a puzzle that kills you when you fail. The best example I can give you is in the form of a story about me, the best gamer on the planet, fucking up time and time again because I didn't do something I thought was obscure. So you have to infiltrate this extremist camp and take out 4 targets and gather information about the Shadow Client. To do this, you have a bunch of opportunities with waypoints that you can follow. Whether it be infiltrating a strike team's training and causing an accidental death, or causing an OCD episode in a target by fucking with the time settings on a dude's clock and turning off the water in the house. Now, all those steps, if they weren't highlighted by a waypoint, would remind me of the kind of convoluted shit you have to do in an old school adventure game, but here it works because the steps are clearly laid out for you most of the time. After all these targets are eliminated, you're supposed to get the dude that you just killed's face so you can get past the biometric scanner. For whatever reason, I assumed the obvious way wouldn't work because I knew a little too much about biometric scanners, but the obvious answer was the answer, so fuck me, I guess. Wish I hadn't tried to clear out this entire area time and time again thinking I needed to drag his dead ass over to the scanner. There's a lot of trial and error in this game because one fuck up basically means you start over from the beginning or from your last save, and it's pretty easy to fuck up at times, so your best bet is to save often when you manage to take out a room without being seen. That's the perfect time to save, because chances are you're gonna fuck something up down the line, especially on your first time through. The opportunities are pretty cool, however, and kind of hard to fuck up. If you read what you're supposed to do and pre-plan a little bit, you'll find that most of the targets you can kill have patrol routes, which means if you're smart, you'll scout their routes, find an area where you could take a shot without being seen and shoot them from cover and no one will know it was you. This can be risky though, because each time you do this, the guards become more suspicious, so I always found it easier to use an opportunity to assassinate the target because they'll almost always be alone for you to kill them. All of this sneaking around shit would be much more difficult if Agent 47 didn't have some magical abilities, so he has the ability to see people through walls. We're told that this ability is because Agent 47 is bald, and because there's no hair in the way of his brain, it allows him to use his bat-like sonar to see where everyone is, as well as see people who are suspicious of you or highlight in burnt sienna anyone who has seen you commit a crime because he's bald, like I said before, like Professor X, but without the gimpy legs, so he's also a psychic. So Agent 47 is a beautiful, psychic bat person. As such, there shouldn't be a way for you to get caught, but with so many people littering any given area, the multitude of enemy patrol routes, you'll likely be caught off guard by a wandering dickhead while you choke out one of his friends. Which, honestly, is a bit of a letdown sometimes. There was this one section where I wanted to kill a target with a breach charge as they walked into a room, but every time I tried, a patrol would walk into the room before her, find my breach charge, and fucking steal it. The nerve of these assholes! The room was surrounded by people, and as much as I wanted to blow that bitch through the ceiling, taking out every one of those guards without being seen, and somehow hiding each body seemed like way more work than it would be worth doing. As I said, this game is about patience, and that's difficult for me because I have this disorder that doesn't allow me to be patient. It's called being a hyperactive asshole, and I've yet to find a cure for it. So I just ended up shooting her in the head with a silenced pistol as she passed by a doorway, and I sated my cravings for checks inside of boxes and for murder. There's a point system in the game and a mastery level for each location. The points are like big dick bragging as far as I could tell. You get points on a couple of factors. You lose points based on whether or not a camera spotted you. You can mitigate this by destroying the evidence in the camera room server. You also lose points each time you're spotted doing something naughty, or when you kill someone that isn't your target. There's no way to mitigate these penalties as far as I know, and if you're worried about the point system and you're trying to get a 5 out of 5 hitmans, then this will influence greatly how you play the game. At first, I tried playing the game organically by exploring, finding people who were all alone, choking them out and stealing their shit. Then this would open up a new branch of the level and I would go from there, but after failing time and time again through experimentation, I ended up just using the opportunities more. That, quite frankly, made the game a joke because while the game is a puzzle, the puzzle comes pre-assembled and glued together. Only a few of the opportunities require some out-of-the-box thinking, but most of the time it comes down to what costume you're wearing and how quickly you can get to a waypoint. Ramboing through a level is possible, and I've heard that in Hitman 2 there's actually a couple Easter eggs for doing it, but as far as I know, there are no such Easter eggs in Hitman 1. And while the enemies don't respawn, it can be quite difficult to survive if you don't go in prepared, because some of these levels have over 100 enemies in them who will rush to find that one bathroom that you're killing them from. And because there are a lot of choke points in this game, you can just sit kill boxing all day until a pile of bodies in front of the door forces you to find another place to kill people from because your frame rate is lower than a drug addict's self-esteem. That's when stash houses become useful because I never used any weapon other than the pistol except when I tried killing everyone. Throughout each level, as you complete objectives, new starting points will open up in the level, and in those starting points you can smuggle in a weapon. For instance, you can smuggle in a silenced sniper rifle, and if you're good, you can take out every target on a map if you time it right. The only reason anyone knew you were there is because there's some dead guy in the yard. You can sneak in an Uzi, AR, or a shotgun and buckshot your way to glory, restocking on ammo for every dead boy you racked up. Though the game heavily pushes you in the direction of not doing that with the mastery system, which still relies on achievements to level up, and the point system, which is how you measure your dick because it doesn't affect anything but leaderboards, and I want to talk about that for a minute. To me, a scoring system is there to tell you how well you're playing the game. Hitman can be played in a variety of ways: stealth, objective-based, or combat. Combat is objectively more fun because exploiting dumb AI is never not fun. For a while, that is. But I always find myself playing Hitman games as a stealth murderer. I kill, dispose, move on. Every person I kill and dispose of, after all, is one less asshole I have to worry about later. I mean, I'm talking Leon the Professional type shit. That playstyle is absolutely punished by the scoring system because the scoring system only takes into account one playstyle, which to me is one of the most fucking boring playstyles in the game. It's conflictless, rote memorization of the level, and I hate it. I prefer a scoring system to tell me how well I did using my style, and I know the story kind of encourages this mindset, but it still doesn't feel good to feel like you're being funneled into one playstyle in a game that was obviously set up to be a sandbox. And what's worse is all those unique ways of killing dudes, like electrocution, is always put in a place where you have no way of killing the person without the murder and the body being discovered. So you have to sacrifice points to do that. So the game is actively messaging to the player to not do the one thing that is the most fun and unique thing about the game. Not to mention how rare it is to actually pull this shit off. But fret not. Like I said, the scoring system doesn't mean anything. But you won't realize that until you've either beaten the game or given up on the game. Now, I haven't played Hitman Absolution, but I am told that the scoring system is much better there, because it takes your choices into consideration and doesn't penalize you for it. I hope that Hitman 2 and Hitman 3 addresses these changes when I eventually buy and play them. I also hope that the levels are designed for these kinds of playstyles, giving players an incentive to go violent but silent. Maybe have the target panic at a certain point, become cornered, beg for their life, you know? Simulation. I guess the main problem with the game is that the AI kind of doesn't stand a chance against you. I mean, one headshot and you're toast. And whether it's a pistol, assault rifle, or shotgun, 47 is a really good shot. Godly even. And if it weren't for the damage fall off, it's possible to do headshots with a pistol at long range. The AI isn't helped by its simple behavior. They run to wherever you are, and that's a real bad thing because you could just sit in front of a door and just pop those headshots all day. If the AI had the ability to throw in grenades maybe to flush you out, that would be one thing. Now we're cooking. No perching up in small rooms and killing everyone in a level anymore. But if you want a real challenge, you could try the professional difficulty, which will turn off a lot of the help with opportunities like waypoints, and in this difficulty, being seen by a camera doing something you're not supposed to be doing, like sneaking into a private area, will call security to come look for you. You also die to 3 shots, so Ramboing this difficulty is quite a bit more difficult, and it forces you to play these campaign missions in a surprisingly different way. Suddenly, you're now looking for cameras when you might not have cared all that much before. There's a custom difficulty setting too. It's the best kind, which allow you to take off all the training wheels, even Agent 47's superpowers, and you get to play the game in the most difficult way possible. You can turn off just about everything. You can turn off hints about opportunities, instinct, target information, objective mini-maps, and NPC indicators. It's all very highly customizable. There's even an option to turn on a time limit for your missions. It's pretty cool. The technology in the game is really impressive. It allows for these huge levels densely populated with crowds of people, and they've somehow made it so that this game runs on my rig at 60 FPS fairly consistently, with a few minor drops here and there. They've done this through heavy use of low detail meshes and environments, which gain all of their detail from normal maps, great use of LOD on NPC models, and all of this works because you're playing in the third person perspective, which means you'll rarely see the shortcuts that were taken. The game looks fantastic as well. One of the prettier games of this type that I've played, and a lot of that is due to the scenarios and settings. Though I will say this, the first mission, Paris, is the show stealer. After this, nothing really quite reaches the level of, oh my god, that's cool that this level does. And not just because of how it looks, but because of the various opportunities and the fact that if you start the level as a crew member, you could drop a fucking chandelier on one of your targets within the first minute of the game, in front of a huge crowd of people. It's hilarious. But not just that. The routes that your target takes allows you to take them out in all kinds of different ways that aren't relegated to the opportunities. While this later episode feels a bit more restrictive and requires much more from the player to set up their kills, and even then I found it easier to just rely on the opportunity system. The campaign, if you're rushing through, will probably take you about 4 hours to complete. Like no shit, 4 hours. Now the game expects you to replay missions in different ways and all that, and I gotta tell you, I'm not that kind of guy. Once I beat a game, I don't really like to fuck with it anymore. That's why there's a ton of games I haven't beaten, but I've managed to get close to the end on. I'm usually doing this because I want to have a reason to go back and play the game again. For Hitman, I didn't really replay any of the missions because to me they were a little boring. I mean, I played a few of them, but, you know, seeing someone blow themselves up golfing is funny and all, but some of the more funny shit to do in the game was hidden behind a lot of sitting around, watching people do shit and waiting for an opportunity. For a better replay experience, I recommend the escalations. They're a good distraction and they offer different targets you can kill in environments you already know, and because these people have different routes than the campaign targets, you might actually get to take someone out using a method you never used before. And because these missions are typically short, when you fail, it doesn't feel like the end of the world. The level design is amazing, lots of loops that give you multiple ways in or out of a place, and the placement of obstacles in the form of suspicious guards makes every path you take a waiting game, or a game of throw the coin and choke a bitch. There's plenty of cover for you to use, and there's almost always a way through a level without harming or subduing anyone. In fact, there's some sadists out there who have managed to complete levels using the starting suit and only the starting suit. It's actually one of the mastery level perks. All of this, however, hinges on whether or not you're the type of person to play a mission over and over again, enough to get to the point where you've memorized the locations and patrol routes of enemies in order to have a straight, unobstructed path to your target. The sound design is pretty good as well. No level shows off the sound design better than the Paris mission, where a droning electronica sound blasts in the middle of the mansion, while the further out from the center you get, the sound of it muffles more and more, cutting off the treble at times and only allowing bass through. It's a nice effect. And even when closer to the music, the sound of it fades ever so slightly when a conversation is nearby, so you can still eavesdrop on people while not losing the ambience of the level. And there's a lot of conversations in this game. Sometimes these conversations contain nuggets of important information, so you might find yourself in a professional difficulty simply listening to hints of opportunities to get your target alone. Sometimes a conversation is just filling in some gaps as to who the people are and why you're there to kill them. The music is decent, it never gets in the way, and when it swells, it's usually a smooth transition. I look at music in a game like this, if it stands out, it's probably because I'm cringing. When the music just fits, then it's not a problem. So should you play it? Yeah, sure. I mean, it kind of depends on what kind of player you are, to be honest. If patience isn't your strong suit and you hate stealth games, stay the fuck away from this game. It won't be a fun time for you. On the other hand, if you like this sort of spy stealth game and the idea of throwing a fire axe into someone's head appeals to you, then you should probably spend a shilling or two on this. Last I checked, it was free on Steam. Don't know if that offer will still be available when this video goes up, but check there. It's usually on sale as well, and you can buy a single episode if you're not sure you'll like it, and make a decision from there. And that's what's up with Hitman 1.
Always make me laugh when someone thinks they have a lot of hours in a game and go on to say a figure like 200 hours. I have 7.5k hours in Rust. Now I'm sad. So wait. You're telling me that? Despite admitting they wanted Morrowind to be fully voice-acted, it's all because of the complexity they wanted Morrowind to have. Okay. Sure. Can't be the technical limitations. Heavens no. Also, nice job outing yourself as tuning conversation out. I'm sure your wife loves that. If anything, distilling the conversations isn't just cleaning things up for the mainstream, it's cleaning things up for everyone. Just want to mention the fact that this was not a AAA title. Regardless of how fast they put together New Vegas, they didn't have a bank of pre-rendered assets or a world lore to build off of. This game was built from the ground up. And, yeah, it's not the greatest. But, it does what it sets out to competently. And, not every game is gonna be a great one in any developer's catalog. That being said, I'm glad that it wasn't a stinker. I'll take okay. I have confidence that they'll either improve the property and enrich it, or learn lessons when working on a new one. It probably isn't all YouTube's fault. I don't know if I'd go there. The last few years YouTube has made it pretty clear the type of content it wants. If you don't have a couple million subs, don't make daily spam, don't keep your VODs between 10 and 15 minutes, and aren't primarily catering to 15 to 25-year-olds you can piss off as far as they're concerned. They're interested in those people and corporate partners, and that's it. The old days of finding a niche, putting out quality content on a semi-regular basis to a few 100,000 subs, and making a living doing that on ad revenue alone are truly dead and gone. Dude, sorry, there is a lot of misinformation in your video. You should only play at highest difficulty, because then you can 1-2-shot kill enemies and they can do you. On lower diff the enemies are bullet sponges, and it breaks the immersion game. I'd why the design is like that, but trust me, to avoid frustration and actually have some fun, play highest setting only. It will be punishing but fair. Strat-Edgy says, wait until you see my next video. You don't know shit, Jack.